guys, Kim here. Welcome to Backyard Blooms. Today we are going to talk about how to start a new garden, and I have 10 steps that we're going to go through to think about whenever you start a brand new garden. So I am at one of my neighbors' house, Suzanne and Josh, and they contacted me and asked me if I would be interested in help designing their landscape. So I thought, well, it'd be a great opportunity to go over these 10 steps, and then we're going to go to the nursery and help them pick out plants. So I'm super excited, and I'm going to tell you my plan. So number one, the first step that you're going to think about is observe what you have to work with. So you see, this is the area that we're going to work with right here, and I'll bring my video camera and show it just a little bit closer to you. So they've already kind of plotted out a new space here, but that's something that you want to think about whenever you decide like how big your landscape's going to be. So this back here is about 60 feet behind me, and maybe probably 3 feet to 6 feet wide in some areas, and they kind of have it curved. And another great idea is whenever you're deciding like what kind of shape that you want it, you can put a garden hose out to like kind of design the curves before you decide to like cut out all your sod or whatever else you have to remove for this area. But what else you need to think about that includes in number one is sun. So does it get at least 4 hours of sun? Now this area right here has full sun. So whatever plants that we decide to put in this area, it is going to take full sun. And then another thing that you need to think about when we go to the nursery to pick out plants is, do you have enough space? So that's something else that we're going to think about, and we're going to look at how big that plant gets at full maturity. And then another thing to think about is how you're going to water. So we live here in Charlotte, North Carolina, zone 8, and it gets really hot. So I told Josh that he definitely wants to put drip into this, and we're going to help him put drip in. So that's going to take care of how it's going to be watered. And then another thing to think about is soil. Of course, we live here, like I said, in Charlotte, and we have clay soil. So we're going to definitely get biotone and some land and sea or some kind of compost, and we're going to amend the soil when we go ahead and plant. And then another thing to think about is critters. Of course, you know, we do have a big deer population here, bunnies, squirrels, so that's something that we need to think about. And like I said, I had to put a deer fence around mine because the deer were kept on getting in it and eating all my new foliage. So that's something to think about, and I don't know if they have a deer problem, but if they do, then they might want to think about putting up something very similar to protect their plants. And then of course, the last thing in that, in number one, is budget. Like, how much do you want to spend on this area? So that's all the things to think about when we're going to the nursery and picking out plants. So number two is purpose. So whenever you're designing a garden, is it like, do you want it for food? Of course, this is not going to be for food, even though you can throw a couple of little like spinaches or lettuces or whatever else you want. So number two is purpose. So whenever you're designing a garden, is it like, do you want it for food? Of course, this is not going to be for food, even though you can throw a couple of little like spinaches or lettuces or whatever else you want into this garden. You can definitely mix, you know, your food into the garden as well. And then privacy. So this area right here is not going to be for privacy, but eventually in their backyard, they do want to plant stuff that's for privacy. And then the last thing would be arrangements or decor. So they really want this area more for, I guess, like arrangement and decor to help elevate their landscape and their curb appeal. That's what I was trying to think about, curb appeal. All right, so number three is that you want to do your research. So things that we need to like consider when we do our research is what zone we are. And I already told you that we're Charlotte, North Carolina, zone 8. So we're going to make sure that plants that we pick out are going to be good for zone 8, and then plants that are going to love sun. And then the next thing would be what is going to thrive here too. We want to make sure we put plants that are going to thrive. So like some people can do like hydrangeas, but we're so hot here, so like we can't just put any kind of hydrangea in here. So we would want to put like a panicle hydrangea, and I'm just using that one as an example. And then, of course, weeds. You want to think about weeds too. So he's already got some mulch in this area right now, but I told him he's got some weeds. So we definitely want to put down another 2 or 3 layers or inches of mulch here to prevent weeds. And then you're gonna have, I'm not a big fan of the landscape fabric as well, so that's something that it prevents weeds for a small amount of time, but those weeds are gonna grow in your mulch anyway, so it's not something that I'm not a big fan of, and then it doesn't do anything for your soil. Your mulch is gonna break down and become compost, and that compost will create worms, and that in return it will help your soil. So that's something that if you have landscape fabric, it's not going to do any good for you. And then another thing in research too is if you're going to have any kind of hardscape, are you going to have walls, edging, pathway? Of course, they're not going to have a pathway in this area, so that's not something that I have to think about today. But sometimes, especially if you're doing your backyard landscape, like we have a paver patio, and then we have a walkway, and then we have our fire pit area too. So that's something that I needed to think about while I was placing plants too. So just keep that in mind if that's going to be something that you're going to incorporate into your design. Number 4 is to sketch a plan. And then of course you already talked about pathways first, then you want to think about largest trees, and then smaller shrubs, and then you want to think about your perennials and annuals. And then once we go shopping, we're going to have a plan. And I do have a plan for this area for Suzanne and Josh, and I'm going to share it with you. And here's my sketch that I have so far, just to kind of give you an idea. So we talked about with Suzanne and Josh what we kind of like in this area. So we're thinking about a limelight tree right here on the corner. And then in the middle where she's got the big bump out, like some kind of maple tree, she really likes orange and yellow. So I'm gonna try to give that her design, because I think that pop of color, when you pull up into this area, she's on the corner, it's gonna look gorgeous. So, and then a little gem in the back for privacy. So that is one thing that she wanted to talk about, was for privacy, was the little gem magnolia in the back, because it goes right into her back fence. And then she's got a neighbor over here too. So yeah, I've got trees. We're gonna do a trellis with climbing clematis. She's got one area over here that's got a big wall, so we're gonna think about that. Like I said, no pathways. And then yeah, so some of the things that we're thinking about is the sunshine ligustrum that takes full sun, or she likes the lemon fall cypress, so that's something we're gonna think about. Candy corn spirea has great orange and yellow tones to it as well. The lemon coral sedum, or some type of sedum that is that bright chartreuse color, is something we're going to think about. So if it's in their budget, I think a maple tree that doesn't get so big and that big bump out's going to be gorgeous, because it's going to give you that red orangey tones. I thought that would be really pretty. And then we're going to be cohesive. She's got one area that comes out, and then it goes in, and then comes out, and then goes in, and we're going to just be kind of symmetrical on each side there. So this is what my little sketch is looking like so far. So number 5 on my list in doing a new landscape is to remove unwanted kind of infrastructure, like sod, grass, or any kind of overgrown shrubs that you have. So that is number 5, is to remove any unwanted whatever. So like I said, when we start in here, we might have to pull back some mulch to be able to plant, and then make sure the weeds get removed in this landscape area right here, and then plant our trees, and then at the very last end we're going to mulch again as well. Number 6 is to amend the soil, and we already talked about that because I do have clay soil. So today we're also going to purchase some plants, but we're going to make sure we get that biotone for the good root system, and then we're going to get some nice compost too, and we're going to mix that in. We're going to use 80% of the natural soil that we have in the ground here, and we're going to probably 15 to 20% of some kind of organic compost will do well, and then that is how I like to amend my soil. Oh, a side note too is that I like to top dress it as well. So once I amend the soil a little bit, then I like to top dress it with that compost as well, and that way when it rains it will seep into the ground there and give it more nutrients as well. And then this is a good time to fertilize too, and I like to use all the Espoma products. So certain things, like certain types of things. Holly's like something like more acid loving, so we'll use a holly tone. But if it's an evergreen, we're going to use plant tone. So if there's not anything if you can't find all the tones, of course Amazon has them all, and I'll have that link in the description too. But if you can only find one thing, make sure you get plant tone, and this is the perfect time. And everything in your garden needs to be fertilized this year, at least once. All right, number 7 is to arrange the plants that you want. So you don't want to just go ahead and just be like, oh, I think I like it here. You want to like set your plants all up and make sure you like that arrangement before you start putting them in the ground, because it is like way more work to go ahead and dig all that up and then replace it. So we want to make sure that we have all the placements of all the plants that we like before we start digging. So that is number 7. And a side note within number 7, that we want to make sure our larger plants are going to be towards the back, and then our smaller plants are going to be towards the front too. So you want to think about head, knees, and toes. So anything with like trees or taller shrubs is going to be your head, and then your medium shrubs are going to be your knees, and then we want to think about some ground cover too. So head, knees, and toes is what we're going to think about for arrangement. Another thing to think about underneath number 7 is how plants complement each other. So we don't want to put a green against another green. We want them to pop and to contrast each other. And you want to think about texture and color when you're picking out plants. What looks good against each other? We want to make things stand out, and we don't want it all to blend together. So texture, color, and size are going to be things that we're going to think about when we go pick out plants for this landscape. And another thing to think about underneath number 7 also is to pick out a good mix for every season. So I like to pick out something that's going to look good in the springtime. In the summertime, all your annuals that are going to bloom. You might have a shrub that looks great in the summertime, but it's going to look like sticks in the winter. So you want to make sure you have your green for green interest too. So we want to think about spring, summer, and winter. Okay, number 8 is like we're going to think about how we're going to plant this. I personally like to use my auger because of the clay soil, so it like gets it all real fine, and I think the plants really like that, and it has room for these roots to grow. So again, you need to think about like what you're going to need to plant. Either shovel. I like to use my auger, and I'm going to show Josh how I use my auger, and I think he's going to really like that too. And then I already talked about biotone and compost. So how we're going to plant and what we need to plant. Number 9, things to think about, like after we plant, we want to make sure we tap down all the way around the plant to make sure we get all those air pockets out. So that's something that you need to think about too, is getting all the air pockets out of after you plant. And then number 10 is mulch. So adding mulch is a great benefit too. So it suppresses weeds, it retains moisture, it provides nutrients, and again, I said I'm not a big fan of landscape fabric, and you don't want to put too much mulch up around the crown, just around the kind of the base of it. You don't want to put all that mulch all up against like the woody part of your plant. That's not good for the plant. Another thing that you need to think about too is what time of the year to plant. I personally think in the early spring or fall is the best time to plant. You don't want to be putting plants out in the summertime in the heat, especially here in our zone, because plants get stressed out. Just like we get stressed out, they get stressed out too. So you want to be able to get them into the ground a good 8 to 10 weeks before or after, like it's going to get really hot, because that way you have the roots time to develop. All right, so this is Suzanne and this is Josh. Say hello.
Hi.
So I already talked about the 10 steps of how to plan a landscape, and now we're going to be off and we're going to plant. So who wants to come shop with me? Do you guys want to come shop? Are you excited?
Yes,
So,
we're ready
like
to take
they've
a
already
look.
shared my little plan that this can be changed. So we might find some plants that they like different and they've never seen, and I'll be like, this works in this area. So pretty excited about that. So thanks for giving me this opportunity to help you guys.
Yeah, thank you for helping. We're excited.
All right, so let's
Stay
go.
tuned.
Yeah, let's go shopping. All right, Suzanne, what are you thinking? Do you like your selections right now?
I do. I think it's all going to come together.
All right, so let's talk everybody through this right now. So this is the magnolia that we're going to use for privacy, and this is the little gem. We were debating between this one and teddy bear, which the teddy bear was more expensive for one, and I really liked it more, but this one's $39.99.
Yep.
And the teddy bear was $200, so we're not thinking we like it that much better. And then she's gonna put some bite-ins down underneath the little gem magnolia and the Limelight Standard hydrangea for color. These are annuals. And then this is what we're gonna do in the skinny part. This is the variegated euonymus. And then in front of that, we're gonna do the candy corn. We thought the different color variation played really well on that. And then in the bigger part, we settled on the crepe myrtle. Was it called Natchez White?
It was, yep.
Natchez White, which this is gonna bloom more in the summertime. And we struggled between, what else the Yoshio Japanese tree, which is gorgeous. And you could probably do that in your fence line for spring interest. But anyways, this is going to give her more color versus just the spring blooms off the Yoshio. So we decided to go with the white, and we thought the white would play off these colors really well. And then in the back, we're going to do four of the Japanese boxwoods. And these are Japanese, not English. Remember, the English flower and they smell. So these do not flower. And then in front of that, we're going to do the lemon coral sedum. And then to be consistent on each sides and symmetrical, we're going to do the exact same thing on this side. And then over here, Limelight Standard hydrangea tree, which we have not got yet. So that's what we're looking at the pairing. So I like to kind of lay everything out like this just to see, you know, if I design something, if this is something that's going to look good and all the colors look good, textures, color, layering. I think it's all going to look great. And then these are the few more additional that we have. So the only thing that we didn't get today was a Limelight Standard tree, and we're going to look at a different nursery for that one. You like it, Josh?
I like it. Load it down.
All right, guys, so we are back from Wilson's, and we picked out a great selection of plants, and our plan changed just a little bit from my original. So this is like what my new plan looks like right here. So I got like a little colored description. So we replaced the tree right here, the focal point, which I call like if you're doing a bouquet, you have like a focal flower, right? So we've got 3 focals. We're gonna have the Pinky Winky Panicle Hydrangea in the corner here. And then in the bump out here, we're gonna put the white crepe myrtle. And then in the other bump out down there, we're gonna do the little gem magnolia. And then we got lots of fill-ins here. So like I said, we got focals, and then we're gonna fill in. And then I kind of described each little tree. And then I'm gonna give this description to the owners when we're finished here. But that way they'll remember like what the plant name is, and if it takes full sun, and then kind of like describes a little bit about it. So there is my little sketch, my plan. So we're gonna get all these plants put in place, and then I'm gonna help Josh. I'm gonna show him how to plant, or how I like to plant because of the clay soil. We're gonna use our auger, we have compost, and we have our Espoma products. So we're gonna get everything in place, and we're gonna get to planting.
No. Pretty Caroline, stone cold stunner. She was a winner, started working at the diner. Serves this up her mind to count your blessings, 'cause it's telling first, telling
right, so once we get all the plants placed, we just want to make sure that it just looks good from all angles. So that's the Pinky Winky's going to kind of be in the front landscape going in towards the side. Like maybe even centered towards the middle of that post. Do you think we need to bring it over a little bit? Or do you think that's good right there?
I guess it may
Do you think it kind of in between that post and the tree? Just looking at it like this. Josh, do you like the look of that, or do you think it'd be better more over?
over to the left or right?
I'm thinking,
To the right.
well, either more that way
Mm-hmm.
or more towards this way. Here,
Maybe,
hold the camera.
maybe if anything to the right. So I guess we kind of got to maybe see about what's going to go between the Pinky Winky and the...
Either you can center it up like what I was saying to this, right here, and then bring these over, but then it's not really in the middle here.
Yeah.
So,
Because I think I might have to maybe fill in that space between the Pinky Winky and the...
you could probably put annuals there.
Yeah.
Like I would just buy something that correlates with like yellow petunias and put right there and here.
Okay. Yeah, that looks good.
That would be like an annual that just lasts 1 year though, but give you a lot of color. And that'll fill in that space. And you could change it up each year. What do you think about that right there though?
Yeah, I think that looks good.
And of course, you know, your flowers are gonna come over a little bit. And then after frost, I would just throw some either yellow or pink petunias there, something like that. Something that'll complement everything. So we'll look back here. Let's see. Let's come back here and see what you think about all this then. So this is your focal point right here. This is what everybody's gonna see when they come up, right? So we already kind of centered that in between the two windows, which I think looks good. I like the placement of the boxwoods right there. Do you think?
Yeah.
You like that?
Mm-hmm.
And this looks pretty even from here to over here, like, don't you think? So we'll measure though, when we get these boxwoods planted, we'll make sure that they're even space in between, and then we'll go from this one to this unanimous there, and make sure it's the same on this side too when we plant. So you're liking that placement?
Yeah, that looks good.
It's gonna be a huge difference, huh?
Absolutely.
Pulling up. He lives on the corner, so when you pull up, let me show you. Around here, you got people coming this main road and then this road too. And then this is part of a neighborhood. So anybody coming up this is gonna like look straight on. And then over here as well. All right, so let's get the camera turned around and we'll show how to plant. So Josh did so good at planting everything. The Pinky Winky's starting to like actually put out a couple of leaves there, so that's a good sign. Bidens are looking really good, so they're doing good for the cold nights that we had. And then she planted a new Punkster Blue Buglia right there. Got that planted. And this is the little bump out that we bumped out a little bit more. Or I didn't, Josh did. So that looks great. I like the form of the flower bed here too. Candy corns looks really good against the euonymus there. Those colors play off each other really well. And I like the colors of this euonymus against the boxwoods there too. And again, these are Japanese boxwoods. They do not stink or smell like pee. Lemon Coracetum is going to get a ton of sun, so they're going to fill in really well right here. And this white crepe myrtle has great structure and it's leafing out too. So that's a good sign. And then just to be cohesive with everything, same thing on this side. So it's going to get a little bit more shade. And then here in the corner is the little gem magnolia, and then a repeat of the Bidens. It's going to look great on this corner. All right, so I'm back with Josh and Suzanne. So what is your favorite plant that we bought?
I think I like the candy corn, and I always like a good magnolia tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the candy corns and probably gonna like the Pinky Winky once it blooms out in the summer.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty.
Yep.
Very exciting. I'm curious to see how pink it's going to be.
Yes,
So it's
me too.
something different. I'm actually glad that it was a Pinky Winky.
Yeah,
So
that'll be pretty.
yeah. All right. So what would you say this experience was? Was it like helpful? Like, have you learned? Did you
Very
learn a lot?
helpful, learned a
Yeah.
lot. Yep.
I think it was 100% helpful just because we come up with the mulch bed design, but then we were just dumbfounded on what to plant
Yeah.
because we didn't know what goes good together, what looks good together, zones, all that.
Yeah. So now that you've done it once, do you think you'll be able to go back and kind of pick out plants a little bit for yourself
A
now?
lot better than
yeah.
we could have before.
A little better
Yes.
for sure,
Yeah.
and definitely plant them with
Yeah.
the technique that you talked
Yep,
about,
the
black
products.
cow, all that.
Yep.
Yeah. So you probably never amended your soil before, did you? When you planted the trees on the other side, did you amend it with anything?
Yeah, I did. I bought, it was just like a tree planting soil
Okay.
from Home Depot.
Okay.
I did at least do that, but that was about the extent
Yeah.
of it.
There's
No fertilizer or nothing.
Yeah, there's a big difference in the biotone that helps, the root development, and then just fertilizing every single year is very, very helpful too. And you're going to notice a big difference in these holly trees up here too, with that holly tone and iron tone as well.
Yep.
All right, so it's been fun. So we'll
Yes.
see you guys in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.